And we have a pleasant tribute we'd like to do at the start of the meeting before I go into the agenda properly, and I'd like to pass over to Robin.
Thanks, Hazel. Maud, would it be possible for you to join us at the front? So I think most people in the chamber know that although it is shocking to consider it, as she looks such a spring chicken, Maud is actually leaving us and retiring. Maud is hugely and widely respected, not just inside the organisation, but across the whole of the Luton system. She is much admired, again, across the whole of the system, is a very steady hand, very considered hand, and I would go as far as to say much loved member of the team. I think collectively we are going to miss Maud, and personally I'm going to miss your wisdom, your guidance, because you've been a constant source of support and assistance, particularly in my first 4 years, which have been a challenging 4 years for our community. They've been a hugely challenging 4 years for adult social care, and continue to be. Despite those challenges, Luton's in a much better position than most nationally, largely through your leadership and your strong and clear management. So, Maud, you're going to be much missed, and just on behalf of the council, on behalf of the leader and members, I'd just like to say thank you to you.
Years, my children went to school here, my friends are here, my colleagues are here. So Luton has a very special place in my heart. I would like to say that it has been just wonderfully fortunate for me to have had the role I've had, and I feel very grateful that I was given it. And without the vulnerable people in Luton and some of the most needy people, I wouldn't have had the career I've had. And it's been with great gratitude I look back on that. And I want to thank you all as representatives of that community, as I can't speak to them all directly and personally. And I want to thank you for all your support and all the things that we argued at times but got over the line in order to make things better for those vulnerable people. And I will miss everybody, but it is time to do something new. And I just want to reassure you that I could never have done my job without the wonderful team that I've had. It's not a one-man show, and they're still here, and they will continue, I know, under the new director, Jill Britton, who I think is great and will do a fabulous job, and so things will continue as well as they ever have. Thank you.
Thank you, Maud, and we wish you a very happy retirement, and we will miss you, I assure you, we will miss you. Now I'll move on to the agenda properly, and apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, apologies from Councillor Salim.
Thank you very much. Published record of the meeting of the 9th of February. Can I sign that as a true record? Thank you very much. Remind members of section 106 agreements. Are there any disclosures of interest? And remind members to please give any disclosures of interest, please. Kachita? Okay, thank you very much. And we now move on. There's business covered, not covered by the current forward plan under item 3.1, and that is under my portfolio, and it is report 3.1. This report asks the executive to exchange the set of interface agreements that were drafted in 2017 for the set of updated interface agreements that you have in your attached appendixes to the report before you tonight. There are a series of non-commercial changes, controversial, not commercial, changes that were not known back in 2017 when the form of interface was first put together. They reflect the way that Luton Dart would interface on a business as usual operational basis with the airport and provide a better platform for operational decisions to take account jointly of both Luton Dart and the airport. The report highlights the updates to the agreement. There is nothing in the interface that affects RBC financially or in terms of liabilities. The 2017 supplementary agreement needs to be varied to put the new interface agreement in place. LBC, as a party to that agreement, need to agree to that swap. We are asked, as a consequence, to then remove the need for Doppelmayr to be part of the newly drafted interface agreement and for us to remove a 3-month gap between the signing of the interface agreement and the commencements of services on the Dart. This is covered in the deed of variation. Because we are looking to put the Luton Dart into soft launch on Monday the 10th of March with a view to starting commercial services later in the month, it is essential that LAL and LOL are able to put these arrangements in place without delay. There is no risk to any party, and so this report is exempt from call-in in order that the arrangements can be immediately implemented. I would ask that the Executive agree with the recommendation of the report to review the terms of the deed of variation and authorise the execution of the deed accordingly. And if you have any technical questions, Fiona McClone is here this evening from the airport to answer any of those questions. So I open it up if anybody has any questions. Okay, is everyone happy to then go with the change of variation? Thank you very much. We then have a special item under business not covered by special urgency, and it was a report that I'm assuming all members have received, and it is actually a formal report, and I would ask Executive to just approve it. Are there any questions? Is it agreed? Thank you very much. Can somebody let Kachita know? Oh no, she probably can't come in for this one either, can she? She's probably outside for that. Okay, I now move on to item, there's no references from other committees or other bodies, no recommendations from scrutiny, and I move on to item item 8, apologies, we've changed the agenda, that's flummoxed me totally now. Now move on to item 8, the composition of the board of Foxhall Homes. I think you had chair of Foxhall Homes, yeah. This is me as well. To assist in the future development and successful growth of Foxhall Homes, in accordance with the business plan, the composition of the board should now include 2 independent, non-executive directors to bring external challenge and expertise. A report was made by the monitoring officer on the composition of the board of Foxhall Homes at the Luton Shareholder Group on the 2nd of November, and recommendations from that report were presented to Executive on the meeting of the 5th of December 2022, which supported the changes. Further to the recommendation to appoint independent non-executive directors, and in anticipation of that change being agreed by the Council, as shareholder, interviews have taken place. The outcomes of the interviews were confirmed to the Foxhall Homes Board at its meeting held on the 8th of December. All directors present agreed with the appointment of Mr. Westbrook and Mr. Mackin. Absent directors were also afforded time to comment and confirm if they had any objections. No objections have been received, and therefore the recommendation from the Board of Foxhall Homes is that the executive, in its role as shareholder of the company, should appoint Messrs Westbrook and Mackin to the board. Please note, to assist with the introduction of Mr Westbrook and Mr Mackin, Mark Fowler, Corporate Director of Population Wellbeing, will remain on the board when it had previously been proposed that he would step down and resign. So I ask you to agree the two recommendations that are in the report before you this evening, and we'll obviously take any questions. No questions? Is it happy to be approved? Thank you very much. Now move on to item 9 and over to Aslam.
Thank you, Chair. Following the extensive consultation and engagement, the employment and skills strategy and the implementation plan were fully signed off at the end of March 2022. The strategy is currently being delivered through the Employment and Skills Partnership Board, which is made up of from representation across the education sector, including senior schools, the colleges and the university. It also has business representation and support from across the council departments, including education and inclusive growth. A year on, an annual review is being produced to demonstrate progress to date and publish case studies and share with stakeholders the plan for 2023 and beyond. A final annual review and supported marketing will be ready to go live ahead of pre-election period. Significant progress has been made across the 4 priorities, with 70 of the actions from the implementation plan are already underway or completed, with the remaining 24 due to begin in year. The report, along with the slides, provide the detail on the progress against each of the 4 priorities. As you can see from the report, we are making good progress, but there is a lot to do. The data we have gathered to date, along with the additional funding we have secured, will help shape the programme as we move forward. We propose to launch a £5 million skills programme over the next 2 years, and this will include setting up skills commissioning team to commission skills programmes and work with local providers, refresh of the adult learning programme and marketing, and support businesses to recruit 240 apprentices as part of apprenticeship brokerage scheme by March 2025, which would utilise over 1.6 million of currently underspent apprenticeship levy, and supporting residents to improve their math skills funded via Multiply, which will enable them to get a functional skills qualification and allow them to complete an apprenticeship. Create a clear pathway to inform young people and work age resident on progression into future job roles within Luton. Include construction opportunities resulting from the town centre master plan and net zero action plan. Open an employment hub at Morton House that focuses on employment for local residents by working with businesses that have skills gap within their workforce vacancies. These proposals are fully funded from grant funding we've received and using economic growth ring-fenced reserves. They will therefore be delivered at no additional cost to the council. I ask the executive to approve the programme set out in 2023 and 2025, including the release of the ring-fence reserve funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Aslam. Are there any questions? Yes, Javed.
Thank you, Chair. One question on the Morton House. Do we have any timescales as to when that will be operational?
I think we're talking about 2025. So 24.
Late 24.
Late 24.
Okay, Javed. Tom?
Yeah, it's just, we came from a case that came to the surgery on Saturday morning. A young girl wanted in this country on a spouse's visa. She wants to be an architect. The qualifications she got from school in Pakistan weren't recognised over here. She needs to get an A level in maths over here to get on the architect's course. Because she's only on a spouse's visa, she doesn't qualify. Is there any way through this fund we could help people like her to be able to get the qualifications she needs to move on up the ladder? Just a question while you were talking about 500,000.
Sinead, I mean, I would have thought that she would if she's got a spouse visa. She would.
She's only here on the spouse's visa,
Right.
that's all. Yeah.
If you could put her in contact with us, Councillor Shaw, we can look into it.
Yeah,
But I can't confirm that we can or we can't, because we need to look into the finer detail. But it's absolutely a programme that should be accessible for as many people as possible.
Katrina's got all the details and send it tomorrow.
Yeah, but one of the things they have to demonstrate is that
They are economically active,
and they would give the
if they have a national insurance number who are allowed to work, and I couldn't see too many barriers, I would imagine.
On the spouse's visa, you don't get that. Your national insurance number is to been here a while, but what she wants to do is get the equivalent of her A levels over here, so then she'd qualify for the architect's course at the university. The university can't give her the help to get the A level course because she's only on the spouse's visa.
Can you send the details through to Sinead or to somebody and we'll investigate it, Tom? Yeah? David?
Yeah, thank you, Hazel. It's a request, please, that any future reports include one additional piece of information, which I personally find very useful. I'm sure others do too, and that is the gap between the salaries of people who live in Luton and the salaries of people who work in Luton. This has demonstrated in the past that quite a lot of the senior posts in Luton businesses are actually held by people who commute in. So evidence that that gap is narrowing is further evidence that your strategy is actually working, in that more of the senior people are actually living in Luton, not just employed in Luton. I've no idea where the stats came from or how reliable they are, but if they are of any use, then it would be helpful if they could be included in future reports, please.
Sorry?
Yeah.
You have got the stats, so they can be provided.
Yeah, they can be provided. That is our ambition with our qualities agenda, is to make sure that, you know, there's equal pay for people who live in Luton compared to for those people who are coming from outside.
We'll share that.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll share that in future. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, sorry, Fatima.
Thank you, Hazel. First of all, I would like to say thank you for the detailed report. I'm looking forward to the next steps for focus for 2025, particularly the recruitment of 240 apprentices and the employment hub. I'm also glad to see the plan for our care leavers. I have a few questions. Would you like me to do them all together or one by one?
One by one.
One by one, okay. Apologize first if these were covered in policy group. I actually cannot seem to remember what it was. So the first one, the task and finish group, who will sit on it? Officers, community organizations, or residents?
So the task and finish group is made up of the Employment and Skills Partnership Board, which is is representative of the education sector across Luton, so the university, the colleges and the senior schools. It's also got council representation. Councillor Khan sits on the group. We've also got businesses on there, so it's a mix of bodies.
We try to be as inclusive as possible.
And I can assure you that it's very inclusive and quite widespread.
Your second question?
That's what I wanted to say, yeah. On page 103, you said that BBO projects. May I know who delivered them, the numbers you got from for before and after the program? Which organizations, or are they in-house? The numbers you have, are they in-house or from an organization?
So they're external organisations who deliver the BBO programme. The council would just oversee it in terms of the funding the funding allocations and the monitoring of the numbers. But I can tell you who they are. I can send that to you separately.
The reason I ask is because there were some organizations I'm aware of that delivered it, so I just want to see if they're on the list and if the number includes their ones as well.
So with the new programme, the intention is, because BBO is coming to an end at the end of March, the intention is that we keep those providers and deliver the new programme so they've got continuous opportunities locally so they don't go out of business.
Okay, thank you.
we tried our level best to reach out to those community organizations which are rooted within the community. We will have better reach to some of the harder to reach residents, and our aim is to continue with them.
The whole reason I wanted to see the name, if Sinead sends me the email, I can see if those are the organizations that I was thinking of. The numbers you've given after the program, do we know the remaining of, for example, the first one, 320 people? Do we know where they are, what happened to them? And 140 for the economically inactive. Do we know where they are, if they're going to any other courses, if they're looking for jobs? Do we know what happened?
So we do capture some of that destination data, but not all of it. So some of them have gone on to other courses. There is a figure in there that confirms if they're in employment. So again, the idea with this program is that we have a better destination program that oversees it all. So we know exactly where people are going. And even in 6 months and 12 months, we can go back to them to make sure they're still in employment or if they need additional support, because we do have a bit of a gap, which we've acknowledged around knowing exactly where people are.
You'd be pleased to know the percentage of people completing the course are either the same or above national average. So, not everyone gets to complete the course, but we do try to track them as much as we can.
And the last one is the 8 care leavers recruited on page 105. Because it says recruiters, so I'm assuming they're already in place. Do we know their progress, how they're doing, if they need any support for apprenticeships?
So they're all doing incredibly well. We have 4 in inclusive growth and all progressing. And the intention is that we do that further. So when we launch the new apprenticeship brokerage scheme, we want to see more of our anchor institutes and others also supporting our care leavers programme. Sorry, this mic's not working very well, so I keep jumping in and out. But yes, we will do. They are doing really well, but we want to grow that further.
What we are seeing is more and more employers turning to apprenticeships because that gives them access to local labour force, because there is a difficulty at this time in the moment for recruitment. And what we are trying to do through employment skills strategy to create an access point for our employers. If they want to recruit, they reach out to us, and then where we have links to all the organizations as well as the data that we have for those people who are completing those courses, so they can get access to that labour force.
Okay, Fatima. Are there any? No? Are you happy to approve the report? Thank you very much. We now move on to item 10 and over to Rob.
Thank you, Chair. This is a briefing on the Q3 revenue and capital monitoring 22-23. Just to give you a review of the general fund revenue summary firstly. The Q3 forecast has been prepared at a time of growing concern and uncertainty. Luton, like all local authorities, is facing unprecedented fiscal challenges due to increasing demand for services, the legacy of coronavirus, the impact of inflation, and higher than anticipated pay awards. Moreover, Luton residents are not immune from the cost of living crisis, and ultimately it is expected this will have a knock-on effect on demand for discretionary services. The additional impact from COVID, inflation and pay awards adds to the existing budget pressures already being managed due to a high level of demand for services. The increasing cost of maintaining the council's ageing property estate and delivery of budget savings needed to replace the funding cuts under austerity. In spite of this, the Q3 forecast sets out a marked improvement from Q2. The forecast general fund core service overspend has decreased from 7.8 million at Q2, as reported the 5th December executive, to 3.9 million at Q3. The reasons for the decrease in core service overspend are mainly due to the population wellbeing of 0.890 million improvement, mainly relating to housing general fund. Children, families and education, 0.242 million net overall improvement. Inclusive economy, 2.9 improvement, mainly relating to property and infrastructure and neighbourhood services. Chief Executive, an adverse movement of 1.6 million, mostly in relation to the Community-Led Local Development CLLD programme. The government has confirmed that 1.8 million of funding which Luton has provided to local charities, community and voluntary organisations for employment training, opportunities and projects to combat social exclusion and poverty, which was earmarked for CLLD funding, is not eligible for DWP set funding criteria. The corporate items showed favourable movement of 1.2 million, mainly due to the impact of higher than budget pay awards, which is 900,000, less than the initial estimate at Q2, and a 300,000 further favourable movement in borrowing costs. It should be noted that Q2 and Q3 forecasts reflect the core service variances. Pressures caused by price inflation and COVID, forecasted 4.3 million, are being covered by one-off specific reserves and contingencies. The critical saving position is explained in report with full details in Appendix A. The volatile budget position is explained in the report with full details in Appendix B. Recovery plans, mitigation and implications for 23-24. The main variations of Q3 have been factored into the 23-24 budget and also forms part of the deficit recovery plan as presented to full council on the 20th of February. On the capital expenditure, in terms of general fund department projects, a 7.2 million variance is being reported, which is the second table on page 19 of the report. It is important to note this does not indicate an overspend, but is due to bringing forward the timing of expenditure, predominantly on highways and property-related projects. Detail is provided in the narrative. The general slippage in timing of planned expenditure in turn leads to a delay at the point at which we need to borrow to finance capital spend. Hence, the link to 300,000 further favourable movement reported in the corporate section of the Q3 monitor. In relation to other funds, similar cost issues are affecting the forecast for housing revenue account and public health, with overspend forecasts of 1.2 million and 0.4 million respectively, and all the details are provided in section 6. I ask the executive to recommend the recommendations that's in front of them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Happy to approve the report? Thank you very much. We now move on to item 11, and over to you, Sian.
Thanks, Hazel. So this is item 11, where we're asking executive to close the current economic recovery plan and start a new plan, which I'll outline now. So you'll remember, or you might recall, you might not, back in October 2020 that the executive did approve the Luton Economic Recovery Plan for 2020 to 2022. And under that, there were lots of agreed work streams that would support the delivery of that. And the majority of that is now complete. And this report, you can read in there, sets out the major successes of that in more detail. We know that there were some delays to some of the work because we had further lockdowns, and the team had to spend quite a lot of time doing support programmes and the ARG programme to support people during that time. Also, some programmes didn't even start till later in 2022, so they will form part of our inclusive growth plan for 23 to 25. Earlier on, the executive approved the report of the employment and skills strategy 1 year on, and it's useful if you look at that report and this report in parallel and read them both together. And you can see that there's been a lot of progress made, but there's clearly still a lot of work to be done. But to support the delivery of the strategy and combine our skills programme to sit under one umbrella, the executive are asked to approve the formal launch of a new £5 million skills programme for the town. And if approved, this programme will actually reach in excess of 3,000 residents every year. So after the election, we will, well, actually, not accurately, not me, but you will formally launch the new Place brand and inward investment prospectus for Luton. And this work is going to sit alongside a new town centre plan led by the Town Centre Strategic Board. And in addition, there will be a dedicated town centre place activation and engagement plan. So currently this work's being funded through the government's PFPP programme, but it's a huge amount of work. There's a significant regeneration programme planned for the town centre, including changing those perceptions and fully activating the place. So we would like to use some drawdown of the reserves to keep the 2 posts that are currently supporting this work going until at least March 2025. And without those posts continuing, we run the risk of not being able to deliver on our town centre plans, including the activation plan. At the moment, we've had the launch of the new Hat Gardens Pocket Park, and we're developing the stage project. So it's really important now more than ever that that we keep up the momentum. So we'll also need to commission the delivery of 3 studies focused on SMEs and clusters. That's aviation, advanced manufacturing, creative, green and digital, as well as the town centre work. So to support that, we need to commission that. And the executive is therefore recommended to approve an additional £285,000 over and above the approved costs for the Luton Economic Recovery Plan to be drawn down from the Butterfield Reserve. And I just remind members that the Butterfield Reserve is money that is set aside for economic growth only and can't be used for anything else. And the remaining 629,000 is allocated for passport to employment to be drawn down. Within the report, you can clearly see how that spend is set out against different work streams. And the programme will be supplemented by the UK SPF and Multiply funds. So I just ask members to approve the recommendations at point 1, Little Roman 1, 2 and 3. Thank you.
Thanks, Sian. Any questions? Aslam?
Comment. I just want to say I fully support this as it is an integral part of our growth, and it's been hugely successful in our recovery. So, and the money is already ring-fenced for economic growth, as you said. So I 100% support it.
Anybody else? Any other questions? No? Happy to agree the report? Thank you very much. We now move on to item 12 and the work programme for integrated transport. Fatima?
Thank you, Hazel. So the purpose of this report is to set out the indicative 5-year programme to work to be undertaken on the highway asset. This is the 23rd annual report to executive detailing the work programme for integrated transport, highway maintenance and street lighting. This report details the 5-year programme of highways capital works and seeks approval to implement the programme in 2023 to 2024. The capital funding allocated for integrated transport, highway maintenance and street lighting will support the following work. The highway maintenance programme, street lighting programme continues to be managed with limited resources due to vacant posts. Lamp column replacements are being managed with support of resources from term contractor. Schemes within the integrated transport programme continue to be designed, consulted and implemented within each year. Schemes delivery costs have increased due to external factors, which means that less work is delivered on the ground and sometimes schemes will have to be phased over more than one financial year. The work programme will continue to contribute to the Highway Authority fulfilling its statutory duties under various acts, including the Highway Act 1980, Traffic Management Act 2004, and Road Traffic Act 1988, for factors such as ensuring diligent traffic movement. In addition to this, the programme supports the climate change agenda and improve air quality by supporting active travel and managing traffic jam. We therefore asking the executive to agree to the 2 recommendations.
Are there any questions from anybody? Yeah, Aslam?
Yeah, I have no problem with the recommendations and happy to support, but my question is around the quality of sometimes resurfacing. We are seeing more heavier rains, consistent rains, and we have talked about this in the past. Have we done any more research work or part of the commissioning process looking at sometimes the materials being used for this?
Am I? Yeah, I'm on now. Yeah, good. Sorry, I'm Mark Aarons, I'm the Highways Asset Manager. Yes, we've done the industry over the last 5 years has done lots of research around durability of materials. Historically, back in the late 90s, they come up with materials that weren't fit for purpose and fell apart overnight. But there's a lot of research and science done about producing latest materials that are more durable, and we're going back and laying some old materials that we used to lay late 1990s that are more durable. I mean, there's huge challenges around road resurfacing throughout the country. Years of underinvestment in the network. Luckily, in Luton, we provided some additional money last year, and so we provided some additional money this year. But that's going to take time to filter through, and that needs to be sustained over a number of years. Because we've inherited an asset that's been underinvested. So you've got a backlog of roads, but basically need resurfacing. We also need to invest in roads that are not quite to the point where they need resurfacing to prolong their life. So we're using materials such as cold surface dressing and micro asphalt, which are more cost-effective methods of intervening earlier in the life cycle of the carriageway surface to prevent more expensive resurfacing in the future. I mean, but potholes at the moment that over the last 3 or 4 months nationally, they've risen exponentially, and unfortunately in Luton we haven't escaped the potholes. But I think anecdotally we're faring better than some of our neighbouring authorities.
Yeah, I mean, our response time is pretty good, going out there, filling the potholes, but unfortunately they're dislodged, fairly quickly, and then you're having to, it's costing us a lot more. What I'm saying is, can we look at different techniques, perhaps different materials, so therefore you save money over longer term?
Yeah, well, our approach is the last 2 years is first time fix, so you go out there and patch the pothole rather than put in blobs of tarmac. Unfortunately, because of the number of potholes that have been reported over the last 2 months, we have filled some potholes with temporary tarmac, but they usually will be followed up with a patch. But yeah, I'll take your point. That's not economic. That's not the way to manage a highway network. What we need to do is invest in resurfacing, invest in preventing the potholes in the first place. That's what we need to do. Some of these pothole repairs, they're sold by the company as a permanent fix. That unfortunately, if we put blobs of tarmac in and the teams are running around, sometimes they don't stay in. But yes, I'll take your point. We need to invest in first-time fix, resurfacing, and preventing, coming up with treatments to prevent the potholes forming in the first place, and we are looking at doing that. Yeah.
A question from our Cumbria, Carlisle and Cumbria Council. We're doing this trial of the recycled tyres and everything on the highways. I think it's just about finished. Have we got the results yet? And was there a saving on the cost to reach what they were projecting?
We need to look at it. I mean, I've spoken to our supplier, Tarmac. They've looked at using recycled rubber. There's some benefits. There's no benefit in the engineering properties of the surface material, really. There's some benefit that you recycle some of the tyres in your carriageway surface material, but then you've got to 10, 15 years time when it's planed out, you've got to dispose of that rubber anyway. So there's a bit of scepticism around it. But what I'll do, I'll dig out the latest evidence and latest conclusions, and I'll send them over to you. And we can have a chat if you want to.
Yeah. I know they want to do a 3-year trial to see if it works. If we can get hold of the results, it'd be very interesting to see if we can make it work in Luton as well.
Yeah, of course I will.
Recycled materials cheaper, what got a longer life.
Yeah, of course I will do. I mean, we do use recycled products in our materials anyway, but yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll dig them out there, no problem.
Thank you, Hazel. I just have a quick question. I was out canvassing on the weekend and had a query around the number of potholes that you see and you can make a complaint against to have them filled in, because apparently they were told they'd already put in 2 and they weren't able to do any more.
Well, yeah. What we've done historically is because of limited budget. So, and councils do this nationally. Is you have a tolerance level. So you say anything less than 50 mil in the road in depth, then we tend not to rush out there and repair it. At the moment, because of the amount of potholes we're receiving, we've abandoned that approach for the time being, and we generally, if the surface is broken, there's a pothole there, the decision has been, because it's likely to get worse very, very quickly because of the amount of rainfall and the cold weather, we're going to repair that. So it's nonsensical to me that if we've got 4 potholes in a road, that we're only going to repair 2 of them because they're a certain depth, and we're going to ignore the other 2. So if that practice is happening, that's not going to happen in the future. It's just not economic to do that.
It was just that it was raised with me over the weekend around that. Obviously understand that some of the times you probably go and repair the 2, and the ones that are there, haven't been put a complaint in, aren't going to be done. And by the time you come back again, I know there's regular ones that we've got. Literally, you fill them in, and within a week they're back again empty. Yeah. Even though they're the large ones. But unfortunately, the person that had complaint is on the road all the time because they're a driving instructor. So they're probably going to make a complaint about a lot more potholes than anybody else. But they were told they could only put in to say that they'd seen 2 and they couldn't do any more.
No,
so
that's not correct. No, the members of the public can report as many potholes as they like, But if you want to pass me the details tomorrow via email, I'll get them looked at and we'll get them repaired. Yeah. Okay.
Rob.
Thank you, Hazel. Mark, my question is around the road surface and flooding. You probably know we had discussions about it. I walk around by Black Swan Lane and the flooding from the river. I just wondered, with the more cleaning of the gullies in areas where there's flooding, and also made closer working with the environmental agency in relation to flooding, would that help our road surfaces at all?
It would indeed, definitely. I'll deal with the gullies first. There's 2 challenges. One is the revenue budget. 2 is the number of parked cars on the road that prevent us cleaning gullies. And that costs me money to remove those cars. So if we close a road, typically, we have to put traffic management out, and that increases the cost of having to clean the gullies. But we do a road closure programme. We do a deep clean programme. We have cleaned 100 roads last year. What we're going to do, we've got historical data on drains over going back the last 5 or 6 years of the cleans. And then we're going to look at modelling and where we can target our resources more effectively. Absolutely, yeah. And but the challenge really is parked cars for just getting access to them, and the cost of that is of the road, having to close the roads and move those cars. That's a challenge, absolutely. The second thing is we do work with the Environment Agency. So my colleague Kat from Sustainability and Transport's got a good relationship with the Environment Agency. We started to work. We used to historically work really well with Thames Water when re-engaging with connections with Thames Water. We're having quarterly meetings. We've now been given a substantial amount of capital money for this year to deliver for surface water drainage, so that will help as well. So where we get reports of flooding, we're logging in that, and then we're investigating those. We're going down a priority list and we're investigating those. Now we've got some capital to fix some of those drains that are not working and invest here. But absolutely, improving the drainage will help the condition of the road surface. Absolutely. Yes, and we do that anyway. Yeah, we do that anyway. So.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions. What's proposed for Chorley Lane, the 526,000?
Kieran, do you want to, if you're there, Kieran, do you want to elaborate on that?
I am here. Yes, I'm here. If you can all hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So we've been speaking to local ward councillors for Chorley Lane. You may have noticed we've done some trial roundabouts at the junctions of the retail park, so the Chorley Lane retail park with the McDonald's and the KFC at Hatters Way. So the money going forward is to make those trial roundabouts permanent because they were successful following the trial period. And then we're also developing the design for the Dunstable Road roundabout improvements and the Hatters Way roundabout improvements. But that's for developing the design, not delivery.
Javed?
Yeah, okay. But it seems like to make it permanent, 500,000, is that for the whole scheme or is it just for those 2 roundabouts?
So it also includes footway widening outside the Chorlin Lane school, outside the school, Chorlin Lane, and also widening for encouraging cycling and walking along the footpaths that lead up to the busway. The initial budget was initially for 350,000 a year, which also was supposed to fund the Dunstable Road roundabout works and improvements to the Hatters Way roundabout works, but I think the budget's been cut. So, yeah.
Anything else, David?
Yeah, also the 800,000 rand road restraint systems. What's proposed for the road restraint systems? Where are they proposed?
I can answer that. So historically, we weren't surveying our road restraint systems back in 2019. We did a survey of all our road restraint systems, which are the crash barriers. So you see them on the central reservation. They're the crash barriers. So we've delivered a programme in Telford Way, Stopsley Way, and Hatters Way. So we've got to do some investments in Capability Green, New Airport Way, Sedgwick Road, and also there's some parapet replacements and Park Viaduct, and they're all not fit for purpose. So there's a lot of investment that is needed in our road restraint system. Historically, they haven't been maintained, and it's been found on this survey that they're non-compliant. So if a car hit a road restraint system and it's non-compliant, then that can cause some serious problems. So that's why we put a capital bid in for the investment, and it should ensure that our road restraint systems are safe going forward.
And one last observation, the resurfacing programme on page 207, it needs to be reflective of the new boundary changes going forward.
Okay, we'll address that, no problem.
Okay, all right, David, okay. A question?
For long term, I mean, we're not talking about sort of short term, but long term, when we're talking about Hatters Way, do you have any plans to look at a flyover? Because if you look at the volume of traffic, I know it's an expensive thing, but you're talking about that area of the town getting busier and busier. Those short makeshift roundabouts are okay, but you're talking about more and more people settling around there because a lot of offices have been converted to offices. Mm-hmm. People are using that bypass more than ever, and it's becoming a car park. So have you got any plans or thinking? I'm talking about long term, perhaps when Luton Town Football Club moves, or if we're looking at part of sections 106 of, something, or having a future vision for that area.
My colleague Kieran.
Yeah, so currently, no, there aren't no plans. I think that really needs to be a question over to our transport team, strategy and sustainability team in terms of a strategy going forward. But currently, no, there's no plans. But I think the main thing for us is, you put something like that in, you encourage more traffic to the area. If you design more for car users, you'll get more car users. What our actual strategy is to encourage active travel, cycling and walking. We want to try and encourage people to get out of their cars and get on public transport, cycle, walk. And if we keep designing things for the road user, you're just going to encourage more traffic and more congestion in the area. It's not sustainable. So that would be my response to that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Maria.
Thanks, Hazel. Thanks for the report, and I'm glad to hear that you have suspended, waiting for the potholes to get, more deeper. I was on a visit in Leagrave, one of the highway officers, and it was explained to me that actually there was a depth that you had to reach before you went out to repair. So I'm glad, that you've really going to review that, because the issue of potholes is really quite concerning at the moment. And I also want to find out that some residents actually do come out to repair the potholes themselves.
Do they?
In Leagrave.
Okay.
Some of the areas that they have come out, to do that, because obviously it was really bad. So I mean, there's that. I'm thinking that if residents are doing that, that would not help the situation? Does that make it worse, when you need to go back to?
I'd love to, it sounds wonderful, doesn't it, that people are self-helping, community engagement, looking after in a public realm. Two things. One, we can't assure that, we can't assure the quality of work when they're repairing the pothole. I mean, as you point out, we've got problems with our own contractor repairing some of the potholes, guarantee quality of assurance with predominantly temporary repairs. Temporary repairs, unfortunately, if you get a lot of rain and a lot of cold weather, invariably they can come out pretty quickly. Secondly, it's public liability insurance. If they're out for repairing potholes for the council and they get knocked over, then we're in trouble. So, well, I'd love to encourage it, and we could look at it in the future. We'd have to speak to our insurance teams and look at that. Yeah. But if you want to let me know where these potholes are, I'll get them repaired.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Just a quick one. I think you need to go through the rest of the 3 pages as well for the ward to get the correct wards in.
Oh, okay. Okay, yep. Yeah, we will do, yeah.
Kieran's got a question. Fatima.
It's not a question. I just wanted to thank the officers, highway officers, for doing all the work. Like Maria said, everyone's saying potholes is a big issue, but they are going out and they are doing the best they can do. We are underfunded, understaffed, so I just want to mention that they are doing the best they can do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fatima. Right, the report is before members. Are they happy to agree it? Thank you. We now move into private, and can I take the regulation